Hey guys, it's me, Rohan Singh, and today I'm going to talk about another book. Earlier, I talked about Night by Eli Wiesel, which is the tragic tale of a boy and his family who are rounded up by the Nazis and then transported to Auschwitz and then Buchenwald. It's a very tragic and horrific tale, and the book which I'm going to talk about today is also similar to that, although thankfully it's based on fiction. The book which I'm going to talk about today is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This book basically follows a man and his son as they, wade through the remains of a burnt America, and as they try to survive. Basically, an apocalypse book, but it's not the usual apocalypse book in which it is filled with action, in which there are characters, in which there are factions, in which there are basically a type of dystopian book, the modern dystopian books. This is not like that. This is a much more, dare I say, realistic depiction of what an actual apocalypse, at least a burnt America or the burnt world, would look like, and what would it be to live as the last remnants of human civilization. It's a very grim, a very dark tale which doesn't really have a sort of happy ending, to say the least. Now, of course, I won't spoil anything, but I'll tell you guys that if you guys want a dark, a grim read that doesn't really have any light at the end, any tangible light, then this book is your go-to. Basically, if you want to feel down for the rest of the day, then yes, I recommend that you read this book. But that was the short review. Now for the actual longer review. This book is in truth about these two people, the father and the son, journeying to their deaths. They are dying, and this world in which they inhabit, this scorched earth in which there was a global mass fire which burned everything, killed many people. The world is also dying. These people are also dying, and it's a very grim tale in which basically everything is falling apart. The world is returning to its primal form, in which humans walk the earth as sort of cavemen. Not quite, but they are transforming into their cavemen parts, in which they are brutal. They hunt down many people. They are sort of gangs which roam around looking for food, try to kill people, capture people, use them as slaves. Basically, the primal instincts of a human being can have. But surprisingly, even with that premise, this book is not very action packed. It is just basically about the man and his son trying to survive, but basically dying through this world, and what they do to find the food, to find shelter, to sometimes get into gunfights with some attacking strangers, and the moral dilemmas which they face as they are basically given the question of, are they the good guys or are they not. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but let me tell you, once you read this book, you'll realize that it isn't. This book is not as action packed as you think, but in a good way. It's not like this book is boring. No, even though most of the time it's just the two characters talking, interacting, and taking the world in, it still is pretty interesting as you are immersed in this world and are just wondering, how did any of this happen? Why are these two the way they are? What happened to this man? What will happen to these two? Will they survive? And all those type of questions, which really keeps you enthralled in this book, and it stays as a pretty good countermeasure to the sort of lack of action in this book. Not saying that there isn't action, there are some parts of it in there, but they are limited. And in a normal post-apocalyptic book, there would be action everywhere, but there really isn't. You don't even know much of this world aside from the place which these two people look. You don't even know if rest of human civilization survives in other countries or what they are in. Is there any sort of political structure, any sort of hierarchy? Nothing. So in the end, this is just the tale of these two trying to survive in this desolate, dead world. It's also a sort of slow-paced book. It does not go fast. It really lets you take in this entire scorched earth, the things which they do, how they sort of take raw materials, broken parts, and try to fix them into something which can maybe help them survive, like the cart which these two have, in which they store the foods, the blankets, the tarp, everything which they need, the basic necessities for survival. This book also has incredible depictions of violence. You see, there's cannibalism involved. There are infants which are also dying. It's not the best book for someone who is easily offended by violence. So if you're someone who is easily offended by violence, I do not recommend this book. But if you're a person who does not really mind seeing those sort of things, then I suggest this book for you. Overall, a very well written book, sort of slow paced. There's not much action in it, but just because there's no action doesn't mean it isn't good. It's pretty good. I really enjoyed it. If I have to give this a rating, I would give it 4 out of 5. A really good book. And that's it. Thank you for watching my video. Subscribe and like if you enjoyed it, and goodbye.